Welcome to Alpha Coding Podcast, an all-access pass to medical coding and billing pro tips that help you start your week off smarter. And now, here is your host, Toni Elhoms.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Alpha Coding Podcast series. I am your host, Toni Elhoms. Welcome to episode 57 of the podcast. Today is February 1st, and here we are a brand new month on a Monday. So I'm hoping that you're starting your week off really great, and it's even better that you're spending it with me. So I want to give a special thanks to all of my listeners that reach out to me via DMs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of your comments on YouTube. I really appreciate your messages and the interaction. And one of the listeners reached out to me and she was so sweet. She said, "Toni, I don't know how you keep cranking out all these amazing episodes. Every week you keep me hanging on the edge of my seat, and I look forward to Mondays because I always wonder what's she going to cover now." And this is one of the best compliments I could get because I work super hard to keep things fresh and innovative and really try to give you that inside visibility into some of the things that I deal with in my business and as an entrepreneur every single day. So I love hearing from all of you and I appreciate your messages. So today we're going to cover a topic that is kind of similar to Incident 2. It blows my mind that this is still a thing, but I see so much non-compliance with a locum tenens physician billing. So we're going to cover navigating locum tenens compliance. So before we dive into our topic, it's time for your Monday dose of positivity, the Mindset Monday tip. And it's brought to you by Project Resume. When is the last time you had your resume updated? Your resume is literally your entry ticket to that next great opportunity. Project Resume will design a customized ATS-friendly resume to demonstrate your unique skills and experience. And even better, it's written by coders for coders. Make that investment in yourself today and visit projectresume.net and mention my code ALPHACODING for special pricing. So our Mindset Monday tip is all about the importance of your vision. The quote I want to share with you says, "Create the highest, grandest vision possible for your life because you become what you believe." And I love this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes from Oprah. And I truly believe that this is such a catalyst in people's success. When you operate from a higher vision of yourself, you're operating from your imagination and not your memory. So you're creating your future by operating from that vision. And through this higher vision of yourself, you're able to manifest a new reality. People ask me all the time, how did you go from corporate America to creating this successful business, this podcast? And when people say that to me, I always tell them it goes back to creating a higher vision for yourself and then aligning your life with that vision. And if you don't have a vision, you don't have anything to look towards. So you're operating from the past instead of creating the future. As you grow, so does your vision. When I look back at my vision boards from 2014, 2015 to 2021, it literally blows my mind to see that evolution because I had such a different vision in those seasons of my life. And now I've created a reality that was once my dream. And I'm so proud of that. And I want to help other people do the same. So today we're going to cover my top 10 pro tips for navigating locum tenens compliance. There are so many misconceptions and misinformation out there with regards to locum tenens. And I've actually seen organizations go out of business because of non-compliance with locum tenens rules. So it's really important that you understand it's not just applying a modifier and making that a locum tenens claim. There are a lot of boxes that have to be checked in order to meet compliance for these rules. And this brings me to my pro tip number 1. Understand the goal of locum tenens rules. This is a CMS rule, and they basically came out and said that substitute or fill-in physicians can provide services to Medicare patients over a continuous period of no longer than 60 days. Now, there is one exception to this rule, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So the entire goal of locum tenens rules is to allow physicians the ability to to take medical leave, maternity leave, sick leave, go on vacation, or if they are leaving the practice and another physician is going to come and substitute for that physician. These are the types of instances that would qualify under locum tenens. Now, keep in mind the locum tenens physician does not have to be enrolled with Medicare because the bills are going to be reported under the physician that would have seen the patient had they seen that physician. But the organization does have to keep record of the locum tenens physician that provided each service to a Medicare patient. So they don't have to be enrolled in Medicare, but they do have to have their own NPI and they have to be licensed in the state that he or she is practicing. And the basics of locum tenens are that the regular physician is unavailable to provide the service. The Medicare patient has scheduled an encounter with the regular physician. The regular physician pays the locum tenens physician on a per diem or a fee-for-time basis. The locum tenens physician does not provide the service to Medicare patients over a continuous period of longer than 60 days. Again, that one exception, which we're going to cover in a minute. And then that 60-day clock would start on the first day that the locum tenens physician sees a Medicare patient and not when the regular physician started their leave of absence. Pro tip number 2, apply HCPCS modifier Q6 when appropriate. So as I mentioned in pro tip number 1, with regards to the requirements for locum tenens, the way to identify that this is a locum tenens compliant situation to Medicare is to append the Q6 modifier to all of the claims which are rendered by the locum tenens physician, but reported under the regular physician's billing information. So the Q6 modifier is that identifier that locum tenens is applicable. It is really important for compliance that the organization keep a record on file of each patient and each service that was rendered by the locum tenens physician. Pro tip number 3, locum tenens rules do not apply to non-physician practitioners or NPPs. This is probably one of the most common myths out there about locum tenens billing. I hear this all the time. Oh, I have nurse practitioners that are going to be filling in for me and we're going to bill locum tenens. Yeah, sure. Go right ahead. That's going to create some major issues for you down the road if you ever get audited because these rules are specific to physicians. So nurse practitioners and physician assistants cannot be locum tenens providers. And if you look at section 1842B6D of the Social Security Act, it has a specific provision with regards to locum tenens arrangements, and they're only allowable for physicians. Pro tip number 4, locum tenens physicians are not part-time employees. This is yet another myth that I hear all the time, and it has cost practices millions of dollars. It has cost practices their entire business. It has cost providers their Medicare privileges. I can't even begin to explain to you how many times I've seen organizations and providers have devastating consequences because of their non-compliance with locum tenens rules. So you can absolutely hire a part-time physician, but what you cannot do is hire that part-time physician, not credential them, and then decide that you're going to bill them under locum tenens rules. That is completely non-compliant with locum tenens rules. If you hire a physician, go ahead and get their Medicare enrollment forms together and wait for them to get credentialed before you have them seeing patients. So locum tenens is not the same as a part-time hired physician. Another question that commonly comes up is, can a physician work one shift a month and be considered a locum tenens? Again, same concept. Because the physician would be regularly scheduled for that one shift a month, that disqualifies the locum tenens rules because they're not a substitute for a physician that's scheduled to take leave or is leaving the practice. They're actually a part-time or as-needed employee or contracted physician. Pro tip number 5, locum tenens is a Medicare rule. So all payers have not gotten on board with the locum tenens rule. So be sure to check all of your commercial carriers, your state Medicaid plans, and see what their policies are on locum tenens, because some have adopted CMS's policy, but some actually require that you enroll the physician. Pro tip number 6, understand the active duty military exception. So earlier on, I talked about the one exception to the 60-day rule, and that is if the physician is called into active duty. In that instance, then the locum tenens physician could continue to report services under the Q6 modifier until the regular physician is no longer in that active duty military status. So this is that one exception that qualifies going beyond that 60-day limitation. Pro tip number 7, understand how the locum tenens rules apply to medical group claims. So for a medical group, it's a little bit different than if it's just a solo one doc practice. So in the group setting, the locum tenens physician would need to be paid by the group on a per diem or per fee for time compensation agreement. And that locum tenens physician would be the substitute for the regular physician that is going on leave, or if that physician is leaving the practice, then the group practice can bill for that under the existing physician's NPI for up to 60 days. Pro tip number 8, don't misuse the locum tenens rules to avoid credentialing new providers. So I see this all the time. Organizations want to cut costs on credentialing, so they decide that they're just going to bill all of their new providers as locum tenens providers. This is not compliant with locum tenens rules. So don't think that you can use locum tenens billing as a way to avoid credentialing new providers. It's also worth mentioning, because I've seen it happen many times, you can't use locum tenens billing to bill for a physician that you're waiting to get their credentialing approved on. That's another example of noncompliance. Pro tip number 9, don't take compliance advice from a locum tenens company. So the last place you want to get your billing, coding, or compliance advice is going to be a company that profits by placing locum tenens physicians. So please don't believe everything you hear. And I'll tell you from personal experience, this is where the majority of misconceptions stem from that go out and propagate all of this false information. I would also caution you on taking advice from billing companies, because billing companies are typically paid on a percentage of collections. They're not always going to be the most compliant with regards to their practices. And I'm not pointing any fingers, but I'm just stating the facts. I've seen it happen more often than not. If billing companies can get a higher rate of collections, that's going to yield a higher rate of return for them. So again, moral of the story, vet your information, make sure that you're getting it from qualified and authoritative sources. Pro tip number 10, the cost of getting locum tenens compliance wrong is steep. So this cannot be overstated. It can cost you your entire practice. It can cost you your privileges with Medicare. It can cost you millions of dollars. It can cost you violations to the False Claims Act. So it's really important that if you're going to report services under locum tenens billing rules, you have to comply with all of the rules. This is definitely not a rule to misuse and abuse. So make sure that you're using it appropriately, and keep in mind the Incident 2 rules do not apply to locum tenens physicians. And if you need a refresher on Incident 2 compliance, be sure to check out my previous episode on Incident 2 compliance. So grab a pen and paper to summarize my top 10 pro tips for navigating locum tenens compliance. Number 1, understand the goal of locum tenens rules. Number 2, apply HCPCS modifier Q6 when appropriate. Number 3, locum tenens rules do not apply to NPPs. Number 4, locum tenens physicians are not part-time employees. Number 5, locum tenens is a Medicare rule. Number 6, understand the active duty military exception. Number 7, understand how the locum tenens rules apply to medical group claims. Number 8, don't misuse the locum tenens rule to avoid credentialing new providers. Number 9, don't take compliance advice from a locum tenens company. Number 10, the cost of getting locum tenens compliance wrong is steep. So it's time for this week's coding pro tip, and it's brought to you by Contempo Coding, which is an on-demand educational resource provider created for coders by coders. They specialize in affordable coding certification prep courses to help you accelerate in your career. Right now, they're offering an exclusive special to Alpha Coding Podcast listeners, and that's $125 off the Certified Risk Adjustment Coding Prep course when you order through our affiliate website. This prep course has a 100% pass rate, by the way. Visit our website, alphacodingexperts.com, and head over to the Deals and Discounts tab for a link to take advantage of this absolute steal of a deal. If you have a coding-related question and would like it to be featured in one of our coding pro tips, please reach out to me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. So this week's coding pro tip comes to us from Chicago. Hi, Toni. I wanted to reach out since you are very accomplished in this field. I recently passed my CPC exam and am trying to get a coding position. It is really hard to break into coding without experience, and I barely have any interviews, but I'm getting a lot of billing interviews. I've registered for the CCS prep course to open more doors, but do you think that having billing experience will help me break into coding? So you're definitely right. It is really hard to break into coding when you first get into the field. I think all new coders feel this struggle, especially in the beginning, but the most important thing is to keep your eye on the prize. The journey is not easy for anybody. You really have to fight your way in. So getting into billing is one of the best things you can do to position yourself to pivot into a coding role. The reason why this is so beneficial is because you're seeing the revenue cycle from a different angle. And a lot of people don't realize this, but coding and billing are two very separate processes. When you get to see the billing side, which is all of the payments and denials that come back from insurance companies, you're able to see things from a different perspective. So you're going to get a lot of great exposure to denials, appeals, and being able to witness that process hands-on is invaluable. And I'd say the vast majority of coding professionals got their start in billing first. So you're on the right track, and I'm excited to hear that you're doing your CCS prep course. The CCS certification will most definitely open lots of doors for you. So best of luck and keep me posted. Please remember to hit that subscribe button now so you never miss another episode. Also, be sure to drop us a rating and review on iTunes. We really appreciate your support. So this concludes today's episode. Until next week, thank you for listening to the Alpha Coding Podcast. We'll see you next Monday.
For more information about medical coding and billing pro tips, including how to hire Alpha coding experts, follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or visit our website at www.alphacodingexperts.com.